The story of the Malacca Sultanate begins in the late 14th century with Paramaswara, a Hindu prince from the Srivijayan royal line in Palembang, who was forced into exile following the Majapahit Empire's conquest of his kingdom. After a period of wandering and a brief, failed settlement in Singapore, where he allegedly killed the local ruler, prompting a retaliatory attack, Paramaswara and his loyal followers sought a new, secure base. Around 1400–1401, they arrived at a small, sparsely populated fishing village on the west coast of the Malay Peninsula, a location strategically situated at the narrowest point of the vital Strait of Malacca, according to the foundational legend preserved in the Malay Annals, Sejarah Melayu. While resting under a Malacca tree, amla or Indian gooseberry, Paramaswara witnessed a small mouse deer, pelanduk, kick one of his hunting dogs into the river. Interpreting this as an omen of the land's inherent courage and strength, he declared the site propitious and founded his new kingdom there, naming it Malacca after the tree. He established a government, and to ensure the settlement's survival, he immediately turned to piracy, preying on the ships passing through the strait, while also inviting established pirates to use his port as a base, thereby quickly gaining notoriety and resources. Recognizing the limitations of piracy, Paramaswara astutely transitioned to creating a legitimate and attractive trading port. He offered safe harbor, fair and fixed tariff rates, and a secure, well-organized marketplace, which rapidly drew traders away from older, more cumbersome ports. A pivotal moment in Malacca's early diplomacy was its vassalage to the Ming dynasty of China. In 1405, Paramaswara sent a mission to the Yongle Emperor, who was then dispatching the vast treasure fleets of Admiral Zheng He. Seeking protection from his perennial enemies, the Siamese of Ayutthaya, Paramaswara accepted the status of a protected vassal state. In 1409, Zheng He's fleet visited Malacca, and Paramaswara personally traveled to China, in 1411, to pay homage, solidifying a crucial alliance that effectively deterred Siamese aggression and legitimized Malacca on the world stage. A key to Malacca's unprecedented success was its development of a sophisticated and just administrative system. The society was structured around a hierarchy of officials, with the Bendahara, a combined role of Prime Minister and Chief General, the Penghulu Bendahari, Treasurer, the Temenggung, Chief of Security and Justice, and the Laksamana, Admiral of the Fleet, being the most powerful. Furthermore, Malacca's famous legal code, the Undang-Undang Malacca, Laws of Malacca, and the maritime Hukum Kanun Malacca, provided a framework for governance and commercial law that ensured fairness and predictability for merchants from all over the world. This, combined with its strategic location at the center of the monsoon wind patterns, made it the inevitable hub for trade. The port became a spectacularly cosmopolitan emporium, where Arab and Gujarati Muslim traders exchanged textiles and incense for Chinese porcelain and silk, and Sumatran spices like pepper, clove, and nutmeg were loaded onto ships bound for Europe and the rest of Asia. This cultural melting pot had a profound religious impact. During the reign of Sultan Muzaffar Shah, c. 1446–1459, the powerful Bendahara Tun Perak, a key architect of Malacca's golden age, championed the conversion of the court to Islam. The Sultan took a Muslim name, and Malacca transformed into a major center for Islamic scholarship and dissemination in Southeast Asia, further strengthening its trade links with the powerful Muslim merchant communities across the Indian Ocean. Under subsequent sultans, particularly Sultan Mansur Shah, r. 1459–1477, the Sultanate reached its zenith, controlling a vast empire that encompassed much of the Malay Peninsula and the eastern coast of Sumatra. The capital city was a bustling, fortified metropolis, home to a diverse population of tens of thousands, with a well-organized market, a grand royal palace, and a vibrant intellectual life. However, the seeds of its downfall were sown in the early 16th century. Following the death of the formidable Bendahara Tun Perak and his successor Tun Mutahir, whose tenure was marred by allegations of corruption and internal rivalry, the Sultanate's court grew fractious, and its military preparedness waned. Simultaneously, a new power from Europe, the Portuguese, driven by a crusading zeal and a desperate desire to break the Venetian Muslim monopoly on the spice trade, arrived in the Indian Ocean. Having established a base in Goa, India, the Portuguese viceroy, Afonso de Albuquerque, set his sights on Malacca, understanding that its capture would grant Portugal dominance over the entire spice route. In July 1511, Albuquerque's fleet, consisting of 18 ships and 2,200 men, arrived at Malacca and demanded its submission. The reigning Sultan, Sultan Mahmud Shah, initially refused. The Portuguese, with their superior naval artillery and disciplined soldiers, launched a brutal assault. Despite fierce resistance from Malaccan forces, and the legendary bravery of warriors like the Laksamana Hang Nadim, the city's defenses were overwhelmed. The Portuguese exploited internal divisions, gaining intelligence and support from dissident merchant communities like the Gujaratis. After a fierce month-long siege and heavy street fighting, Malacca fell to the Portuguese on August 24, 1511. Sultan Mahmud Shah and his court fled, establishing a series of successor courts in Johor and the Riau Islands, relentlessly harassing the Portuguese from these bases for the next century. The Portuguese erected a massive fortress, a famosa, the famous in Portuguese, from whose walls only a small gatehouse survives today, to secure their hold. Despite their military victory, the Portuguese never successfully replicated Malacca's prosperous trading ecosystem, as their harsh rule and high taxes drove merchants to other ports like Johor, Aceh, and Brunei. Malacca itself passed from Portuguese to Dutch control in 1641 after another long siege, and finally to the British in the early 19th century. But it never regained its former glory as the paramount entrepot of Southeast Asia. Its ultimate legacy, however, is immense. It established the template for the modern Malay Muslim monarchy, codified Malay legal and cultural traditions, and its history serves as the foundational narrative for the national identities of modern Malaysia and Singapore.